views, information, or opinions expressed during AAOA broadcast series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the American Academy of Allergy, its employees, or members. The AAOA is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy any of the information contained in and assumes no liability for any activities in connection with these broadcasts. The primary purpose of this broadcast series is to educate and inform and does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. Advertising which is incorporated into, placed in associate with, or targeted toward the content of this product without express approval and acknowledgement of the AAOA is forbidden. These broadcasts are available for private, non-commercial use only and may not be edited or modified from their original form or reproduced for distribution.
Good evening. My name is Rob Stachler. I am an otolaryngologist in Detroit area. I'm actually north of the city in private practice. My main interests are general otolaryngology, voice, and allergy. I've been very involved in the AAOA in the past, and I have the honor of hosting and moderating this webcast on physician wellness. I'm very pleased to mention our panelists that we have today, and I'm going to mention their names and then have them introduce themselves. So Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself?
So I'm in private practice in the greater New Orleans area. Specialize in general ENT, allergy, and sleep medicine. I have no conflicts of interest. Excellent.
Wes?
So I'm an otolaryngologist in central Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I'm in private practice and do basically general otolaryngology with a concentration probably more in rhinology and allergy. And I have no conflicts of interest either.
All right, Michelle.
Hi, good evening. I am a general otolaryngologist practicing at an academic institution in Bethesda, Maryland, and I have no conflicts of interest.
Doug?
Hi, I'm Doug Dawson. I practice in Southeast Iowa and just off the Mississippi River, and I have no conflicts of interest. My areas of practice, besides sleep medicine like Jim, I do general oto and rhinology and a lot of allergy. Thanks.
And the last but not least, Chris.
Good evening. I'm Chris Vickery. I'm in Augusta, Georgia, which is the second largest metro area in the state of Georgia. We're about 2 hours east of Atlanta. And I'm in a private practice with 14 otolaryngologists. I do general otolaryngology with allergy, and I'm also boarded in sleep. And I have no conflicts of interest.
Okay. So tonight, what I thought about doing is kind of going around and talking about what kind of things that we've been doing during this COVID time. And I do have to mention I have no conflicts of interest as well, just in order to be on above board. All right, so Michelle, during this COVID time, what have you been doing as far as any free time, or what have you been very busy academically, clinically, etc.?
Yes, I forgot to mention, my career is kind of split. I do quality management, and then my otolaryngology practice is peds, allergy, and rhinology. So, of course, during this COVID era, the quality aspect was very important because I was helping to manage the PPE for the hospital, keeping our staff and our patients safe. So a lot of discussions on when to start wearing the masks, how to introduce telehealth, and all of those things. Most of my time was spent doing that versus seeing patients. I stopped seeing patients in person in mid-March.
Okay, very well. Jim?
Well, I would say in a different aspect as a private business owner, spent a lot of time in the early days of just trying to figure out what we were supposed to be doing for our own employees, for our patients, for our surrounding hospitals that we were covering, as well as just the financial sides of trying to figure out how you're going to be able to employ all those people. That was one component as we became a little bit slower on the patient side. And then I found that I remembered that I was also a father and a spouse and a member of our local church, and tried to figure out how I could use that extra time to do the things that I wanted to do. I had been putting off for years, or I guess decades.
Wonderful. Doug?
Yeah, I can kind of echo those sentiments. So, yeah, my practice, I'm an employed physician, so of a large multi-specialty group. There's about 1,300 physicians in this group across 3 states. It's Unity Point clinics, and the first thing that Unity Point did was say, physicians, don't worry, we're going to cover your salary. We're productivity based. We'll do it on a historical RVU basis for 2 months and then reconsider. Well, they only got about 4 weeks into that before they did a reduction of 10% in everybody's stuff. Quite understandably, as Jim says, this is a business that is going to be stressed as we go through this. So I stopped seeing patients down to about 3, just was taking care of, peritonsillar abscess, epistaxis, things that I have since ramped back up and am starting to apply some of those things. It's nothing like before COVID. I saw 21 patients one day, and the rest of the time it's in the low teens to mid-teens, and starting to get stuff back at it. But we can talk more about that.
All right, Chris.
My journey has been really all over the place with this, and I started somewhere around apprehension and anxiety, and quickly progressed into abject fear as more and more information became available, and then landed somewhere just north of depression, but have found myself crawling up into sort of a hopeful optimism, still with a fair dose of apprehension, but sort of glimpsing the path forward, and kind of buoyed up by this thought that we will, in hopefully many ways, emerge better, and not just as practices, not just as economic entities, but also personally, and so it's a good week. I'm on an upbeat path, and somewhat optimistic. The practice has been very heavily impacted. Our volumes have gone from, I think, the first 2 weeks, almost nothing, up to the teens and maybe 20s occasionally. And as all of you, I'm sure, have experienced, the first few weeks, I felt like we were drinking from a fire hose, just trying to process, trying to figure out how to keep the practice afloat, how to protect your staff, protect your family, protect yourself, find toilet paper. So was that too much information? Sorry. As we are glimpsing what sort of a new version of normal looks like, I think that's what's kind of giving me some optimism.
Wes, I'd like to hear some of your thoughts.
Yeah, kind of like Chris, it was a fire hose of information from the beginning, and then trying to figure out, just like you all said, trying to figure out, since I'm in private practice, what does that mean for our practice, and how do we take care of our staff? Who do we keep? Who do we furlough? How do we transition into this thing? And now it's kind of, how do we transition out of this, or hopefully out of it, as we start building back our practices, and for us, just as we start to increase some numbers. We're just starting to do that now. But so on the one hand, it's a little scary, but on the other hand, I feel like, wow, so everybody's in this boat together. So somehow that just makes it seem a lot less problematic for me. If it was only my practice, then I would be much more concerned. But since the whole nation is dealing with this issue, and every business is trying to deal with this issue, there's clearly some help, at least governmental help. So what I had to do first was try to figure out, hey, how do we deal with our practice, and then secondly, okay, how do we start applying for these loans, and do we qualify for these loans? And then once we did get some money, it's like, oh no, now how do I be compliant with these loans? So frankly, I've been spending so much time dealing with that although it seems like I should have more downtime, I spend just as much time at the office trying to figure those things out. It's just on things that don't make any cash flow or keep the business, monetarily afloat. So,
How do you feel about all that? As far as, I mean, the important thing that I want to stress during this Zoomcast is we are human. We have feelings. Those are the kinds of things that I want to bring out, how tough it is sometimes to find the right answer and how distressful that may be. I know we're physicians, we're supposed to treat patients, but how do you find ways to de-stress? What do you do to get through those tough times and to take the load off when you're not thinking about your PPP loan or what have you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And although, so the external stressors now are COVID-19 and all the issues surrounding that, right? But that's not different from, necessarily from external stressors that affected me in the past, like residency or medical school or starting a practice, and then trying to, there's stressors all along the way, and they just change. They're just different. So I guess the question then becomes for me, how do I deal with any stressor along the way? So I'm not very good at that.
That's why we're here.
Right.
And share with the audience. Yes.
I'm much better at just trying to bang my head against the wall and continue to keep going. Like, I'm just going to try this harder, kind of like the definition of insanity, right? You just hit it harder thinking you're going to get a different outcome, but that doesn't always work, right? Or clearly it doesn't work. So, but that's why, Jim, as you said, just thinking about family, and other commitments that you have in life, and trying to balance that, the work-life balance. I mean, that applies here just as much as any other time. So,
I agree. I think what Wes is referring to is resilience. We develop this resilience throughout our career that enables us to overcome the obstacles and the challenges that we expect. But this COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented, not
right.
something that you could follow a mentor into, and we're all just trying to figure it out. It's kind of like building the plane in the air. And that's what I think is scary. But part of resilience is mindfulness, recognizing the fear, admitting that we're afraid, even to our kids. I think that's important, because those around us who are afraid need to recognize that we also experience the same emotions and we need to work through it together. So I think the family time actually is what I rely on when I come through the door and take my shower and hide my clothes and all that, and get to my family time. That's where I recharge, and it really helps me to get through every day.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, what do you do to relax?
Well, I would echo that. I have two college students that have moved back in and are finishing the semester electronically, and so we've gone from empty nesters to the nuclear family again, and that's really been great. Patients have said, oh, has that been tough? But it's really been it's really been a unprecedented opportunity to have this length of time with those guys that are at this phase of life where usually they're just coming home for a few days, or maybe you're lucky to get a week here or there. And, you know, I've had 5 or 6 weeks. And so that is really priceless. I find myself taking great pleasure in routines that I can control. And I mean, I never really thought about the dishwasher as a therapeutic appliance, but to unload my dishes in the morning and wipe my counter with an antibacterial wipe and wipe the common surfaces down, you know, it's just, there's some that generates some peace on some level. I don't know. There are probably medications for that too, but the dishwasher's helping.
It's cheaper.
And
That's a better...
I've been trying to cook a lot, and something about mindlessly chopping vegetables without an N95 mask on is very soothing. So,
Jim?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've been spoiled. I've been cooked for many years, and over this period of time, I have discovered I can actually cook, and we'll eat it, which is amazing. I had actually taken on the challenge of losing weight prior to this, and I also gave up alcohol for Lent, which I saw a lot of Louisiana people drink alcohol, and a lot of them went back to it with the complaint that COVID caused it. I'm not sure if that's true.
I was good. I was good during that time. I was just like you.
But either way, so I took that opportunity to actually focus on some health things for myself and my family. And it's been, you know, it's like a hobby that you always said that you wanted to do, but you never had a chance to do. And because I wasn't in the, you know, charting all night long, I spent a lot of time doing the financial sides of running a private practice and learning what was changing. But I have to say, the charting thing for me has always dominated my life. And so not having those charts was really a blessing to be able to spend with the family. And for me, being able to just sit and read the Bible, be able to pray and think about it. And those are really my grounding sources. Those are the things that allow me not to experience fear, because I know when I do those things, they make everything else irrelevant. And just reminds me of what a blessing it is to have a calling, and a calling to help people, and people need to be helped more than ever. And so that was, you know, those are the things that always makes me go, guess I'm not really that tired after all.
All right. And Doug, tell us what you like to do.
Well, there are a couple things, a couple words that kind of caught me in when others were speaking. And Michelle talked about mindfulness earlier, and that's super important for me because this has been a really tough time, emotionally and, you know, spiritually. I think the whole thing is locus of control, and always as a physician feeling like I needed to be in control of the moment. You know, as a surgeon, you control the operation, etc. You know, it is something that you have to let go of, and that myth of perfection I keep talking to myself about, you know. And I don't know if any of you guys know the name Fay Vincent, but he used to be the baseball commissioner. And one time, I'll just a quick quote. He said, "Baseball teaches us, or has taught most of us, how to deal with failure. We learn at a very young age that failure is the norm in baseball. And precisely because we have failed, we hold in high regard those who fail less often. Those who hit safely in 1 out of 3 chances become star players. I find it fascinating that baseball, alone in sport, considers errors as to be part of the game, part of its rigorous truth." And to me, that just it kind of sums up the permission I need to give myself to be, you know, rigorous, yes, but also understand that myth of perfection, and that idea of being perfect is just nonsense. And yet I can get quite a bit wound up in that and worry about things, as Jim said, that aren't mine to worry about. And honestly, I think most of my friends and physicians I've talked to, including one of the guys on this panel, have admitted that this has been a real roller coaster of emotions. And like Rob said, one day I'm up, 1 week I'm down, 3 days I'm better, and then, you get a 10% reduction and you worry about things. So, I mean, it's going to be fine, but it just doesn't feel that way. So what do I do for that? So one of the things that's happened, I mean, I'm very big into clean nutrition, meaning that you eat well, you eat whole foods, not processed, you eat things that are, not too far removed from being living, hopefully. And also I exercise, and I'm a CrossFitter. I do heavy stuff, and it's great because there's a community, and that connectedness that we have all talked about tonight is very important. Zooming my kids and all those things, but connectedness in the exercise world is we usually have a group of between 10 and 20 in a gym that you're all doing the same workout, and you scream and shout and curse at each other, and it's really great. Well, you can't do that. So we've had, home workouts. We've had stuff where we've been doing focused on nutrition. I did a crazy 4-day fast, not recommended, but still, I had more time on my hands and sense, I guess. So regardless, I mean, it is that connectedness to try and get through things. So.
Yeah, I think exercise is really important. I am a swimmer, and I was swimming at the beginning of all this, and then suddenly I got a notice that the pool and the gym were closed in the same day. But the good thing is I've taken up walking. I'm not a jogger or a runner, but walking with my husband has been nice because he doesn't have to commute. The commute in this area is horrible. And
Yes.
Since he's teleworking and the kids are all home, we've had more time to walk as a family on the weekends. And I've walked daily with my husband and the dogs during the week. And that is a great time for conversations we wouldn't have otherwise had, and reflection and appreciation, which also fills your cup. So that's been the silver lining for me.
Does anybody else have anything else to add? Anything special that you do during COVID that you haven't been able to do that you are happy that you're doing?
Well, it is true. I mean, as much as I feel like I've been busy with all the financial aspects of work too, just like Jim was talking about, it has been that the lack of charting has been great. I get that all done while I'm still at the office, and that is unprecedented for the last 12, 13 years too. So that has really allowed for just some ability to let down and relax. And the quietness, like in our neighborhood we have, or our area, there's a quote unquote curfew. Not exactly sure what that means, but they try to tell people if they don't have to be out, they shouldn't be out after 8. So it's quiet around here, and it's great. We can sit out on the front porch and just watch the sunset, and there's no traffic, and there's nobody out, and it's been really restful. So, and I realized that, wow, that's different from anything I've done before, and or do usually when work is normal. So I'm going to kind of miss that, or at least I've noticed that that's different, and I don't want to lose that. So moving forward, trying to figure out, how do I keep that, or keep some of the benefits that this 4 to 6 weeks has afforded me? How do I keep that going?
I think I can touch on some things that Michelle and Chris mentioned, that I've gotten busy trying to organize this house and put things away that have been, a couple year-long projects and haven't gotten to them. And I've got a storage room that you probably serve food off of, but before it was just a clutter. So other than just doing that, and I haven't had very good relationship with my dishwasher. We can talk about it.
I can give you pointers, man.
Thanks, yeah.
So I think that one of the points that I would like to make is how impressed I've been about the AAOA and about how they've been reaching out to us and continually updating us on all the various activities that are occurring. And I'm also very grateful about the main academy for helping us as well. And that was one of the reasons why I suggested that we do a physician wellness type of Zoomcast, because I really felt that hospitals, when they say that they're really worried about physicians, they say on the one hand that they're really concerned about us, but on the other hand, they'll let anybody call us at any time of night with a routine consult. Now, I mean, reality is that they want to get the people out of the ER and onto the floors as soon as possible. So I can understand getting a call about that. But the reality is that instead of just saying that they're there to help us and they know about our stress, they should make some kind of rules about when is the appropriate time to call a physician with a routine consult. I certainly dare say that 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning is an appropriate time to call me with a routine consult. So does anybody else have any other ideas about things that would make their life better while we have time to think about it?
Well, I will jump on that idea about the AAOA and the Big Academy. That today's published thing by the Big Academy, Guidance for the Return to Practice for Otolaryngology Head and Neck Surgery, Part 1, a living document they're talking about. If you haven't had a chance to download it, it's on the Academy website. The AAOA has been very active from a socioeconomic standpoint of looking at things. There have been webcasts or Zoomcasts like these, talking about how do you get back to getting immunotherapy started or getting your practice started back up. What things do you need to look for? There are just all sorts of advice out there, and we also, I think I'll put a plug in for the basic course, which has been switched to digital. It's going to hopefully be up within the month, where there's going to be some practice management issues, as well as the basic of perhaps you need to onboard a new staff member, and doing that digital way of onboarding and learning about allergy, just really bolts and nuts and bolts and things that you can do digitally now, and maybe onboard that staff. So those things that the AAOA has been doing, I think I really commend them. They've been doing a great job. Look it up on their website as well.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, because there's been, in the beginning, there were so many people willing to close things down, but then there's just been this huge fire hose of information that's partly expert opinion or conjecture, and some's fact, and it's hard to really wade through all of that stuff. So to have our academy come out with guidelines that's reassuring, and it's certainly helpful to gain kind of just an overview of what needs to happen and what should happen, and what's kind of based in fact, is extremely helpful, and reduces the anxiety of like, how do I restart and reboot my practice, So that's great.
I think one thing that generates anxiety is lack of information.
Yeah.
And so the Academy and the AAOA have been very good at reaching out, putting out guidelines, so that we don't have to recreate the wheel, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, we can focus our energy on the important things and use the guidelines that many people have been working on 24/7 to launch. And building that community is as important, just like these Zoomcasts do. I think hearing from ordinary people and from people who we routinely hear from is very comforting, because we're all going through the same thing.
I think going back to what Rob was talking about with regards to the displeasure being called in the middle of the night for what is maybe not an emergent situation and applying that to what the academies do for us, and definitely answering a lot of the questions of what directions we should be practicing as we open up and shut down and make our patients safe. But from specifically about what we're supposed to be talking about or focusing on tonight about physician wellness, I do think there's opportunities of the academy, both the AAOA as well as the parent academy, of being able to look at the things and be able to bring that in a political way, that we can realize that maybe most physicians are spending a little bit too much time documenting, and that there are some things that were initially meant to be better for patients, for charts to talk to charts, so that physicians across the country could better provide care for their patients, but they just didn't always hit their mark, and that there's opportunities to see when there's a downtime how dramatically different that can be for a population of physicians who there's not enough of, and that we want them to be able to provide care for longer periods of time. I think we're learning that telemedicine is a new avenue where we should be able to treat more people with less stress, both on provider as well as patient, and how these things, instead of waiting for the problem to occur and then make a solution to de-stress them, is to try to figure out ways that we can in advance try to make some of these things less stressful as we move forward.
Wes, do you have anything to add?
Gleaning from this experience and, you know, applying some of what we've learned just going through this experience now, and trying to figure out how to maintain some of the good as we go back into our normal life and normal routine is great. I like the idea of telemedicine, and especially and you know, I don't know, that at least I think is a low-hanging fruit if insurance companies would agree to continue to pay for that. Certainly convenient for patients. I saw one patient today who's a physical therapist working in Maryland, and she was at work, and then she jumped out of that room into another room. We did our thing for 10 minutes, and then with the telemedicine visit or telehealth visit, and then she went back to work. So that's quite convenient for her for just a routine 1-year follow-up. And I think like those kind of things could certainly streamline some of what we do. So
Absolutely. I think that when you think about physician wellness, you have to think about how technology can work in our favor. And we thought that when we started to use the EHR, that was going to be such a great thing, but we didn't realize we were going to get 3,000 clicks a patient. So, I mean, be careful what you wish for. I think that one of the things I want to bring up is that as physicians, that we need something else in our lives to take our minds off of being physicians. And for me, that might be reading or working out. I know that when I'm working out and I'm sweating and I'm on an elliptical, the last thing I'm thinking about is somebody's, nosebleed or something else that's happening. I'm really actually not thinking about anything else, but just surviving the torture that I'm enduring during the workout. So, I mean, when I'm feeling up to it and I'm feeling good, my ankle's been bothering me as of late, but I'm saying that when I'm feeling good, I really find that working out reduces my stress and brings me down from that hyperactive, what's happening next kind of stage. I mean, I know we're all fearful about what's going on. I think that we should all acknowledge the fact that we are stressed. And even though we don't have the answers, it's kind of normal for us not to have the answer. and that we all got to kind of get along together. And so as we're getting late on the hour and we're getting close, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to give a takeaway about what they would recommend the viewers to do to be better physicians in wellness categories, taking care of yourself. What would you recommend? What would be your advice to those that are watching as a take-home message? So I'm going to start with Jim.
I would say for me, COVID brought a pause on my life. It let me reflect on what do I want to get out of life? What is my purpose? And what is my calling? And then you just need to reboot and try to put more emphasis on the things that were your answers from that, and not necessarily where you were. Hopefully it was the same and that you double down. But for me, I find that I was way more involved in the mono vision of a practice and maybe lacking a little bit on my faith in my family.
Excellent, excellent. Doug.
I would say I think of myself as a kind person, but I think through all of this, the one thing that can get all of us down the road a lot farther is to be kind to one another and realize that we're all in this together. And so one, that connectedness, and yes, with my family and with my relationships in my life and who I'm with and what I'm doing, but also just in how we address that public. And in our hectic, busy lives, it's really easy to get irritable and short. And I mean, I think that's something I'm guilty as an ex, but that kindness thing has come to me over and over as I've been going through this. I'm very grateful for some of these patients that have come in and have seen me and have braved that, new world. And yes, I really wish the gentleman, 86-year-old, didn't come in today for having his earwax cleaned, but I took care of him kindly as I could. But he was certainly at risk. So anyway, thanks.
Wes.
Yeah, so I agree with Jim. This 6 weeks has really given a pause for me too, and I just to try to reevaluate and to remember, what life is really all about, why we're here, why I'm here, and just remembering a couple of things. One, it's not about me, and I'm really not that as important, right? I'm not as important as I might think I am. And one doesn't really know what's good and what is bad. So who knows what's going to come of this and where it's going to lead us. And I just think we need to be open.
Chris.
First of all, I'd like to go on record saying that I fully support the Stachler doctrine of no consults between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. And I think we really need to figure out a way to get widespread adoption for this. Largely echoing all the great points other people have made, my takeaways would be, acknowledge how you're feeling, talk about it, tell your partners, tell your spouse, own it and work through it. Emphasize connection, whether that's through the family, through the church, through your group, through your practice, through your department. Honestly, seeing you guys tonight does me a world of good, and I appreciate that. So connection. Thirdly, and I know everybody's doing this, but it's been such a blessing. I know we're all worried about finances, but it's been such a blessing to be able to give, like to a housekeeper or someone who, normally you'd have an opportunity to pay them for services and they can't come in your home and they can't do services, but, to the extent that you're able to sort of help them, I think that, what is a, fairly easy thing to do can be monumentally meaningful for some folks. And then lastly, explore, whether that be, Doug exploring his utility room or me exploring my dishwasher, explore some things, find those new interests, and then, the things that stick, figure out how we go forward, how we bring those into life. And like Jim said, double down on the things that really matter rather than defaulting back to that busy EMR centric, work focused, imbalance that we all have lived so much. So thanks.
Michelle.
I've really enjoyed this as well. I think we're all talking about balance and reflection, and an acronym. I love acronyms. MAC for resilience came to my mind. Mindfulness, which I mentioned for me and for some others here, it's prayer. And I've actually taken up walking during some of my meetings because they're Zoom meetings and I have it on my phone. So sometimes I just step outside and walk while I'm having meetings, which has been really nice. And then the A is for appreciation and acknowledgement of those around us who are going through the same things. And some days it's my kids, some days it's my husband, some days it's my patients. Just acknowledging and appreciating how much they're going through and how much they're able to overcome these challenges. And then the C is communication and connection. It's been nice. This week I connected with my med school classmates, my roommates. It was great. We're in 6 different states and we got together on a Zoom call. And unfortunately, I've lost some of my college friends to COVID. And I know several who are my age who've had COVID, and that's scary. So I think the connection is really important, taking the opportunity and the time to reach out when you think about someone and see how they're doing.
Good stuff. Thank you.
I'm really impressed about what we were able to talk about tonight. I'm honored to be able to pick your brains and see inside of your minds about how you deal with various things. It's really fun to get together in this kind of a venue, and it's a testament to how wonderful the AAOA is, because I really have so many friends who I completely adore, and how much I enjoy this organization and what it's given me. And it's nice to get on a Zoomcast and give something back and to tell others about their fears and their anxieties and their concerns. And I think we all have concerns. And I think that when you do have concerns, pick up the phone and call your AAOA colleague, call your local friend. Don't be afraid to reach out, communicate. We're all in this together. And the most important thing is anybody that's watching us, if you need anything, feel free to contact each and every one of us, because we're always there to help. And we're happy to lend a hand, answer a question, boost you up, because there are days when it's tough. Just the other day, Chris and I did another Zoomcast. Chris sent me a text. How wonderful I felt he said, great to see you, buddy. It's been a long time. And so stay upbeat, stay positive, and we all can get through this, and we're going to be better. And I hope that we get a chance to all get together at the meeting in October. I want to thank everybody once again. What a pleasure it was to do this. Have a nice evening.